Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 668. This is the podcast to do with music technology, music production, live broadcast, I suppose, to a degree, or streaming, performance, software, recording. I think I've said some of those already, but you get the gist. That's the idea. It's a show lasts about an hour. You can find us all on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes. We're also on Alexa. You can ask your Alexa to play the Sonic Talk podcast. I wonder if that's triggered anybody. Maybe you. I don't think it works live. You have to listen to it after the fact. So there you go. But yes, I want to say thank you very much to all our friends who are over. We've got people in the YouTube, because we stream to YouTube Live. We've got people in the IRC, which is our little tiny IRC. We've got people on the Discord, not Discord, this is the, Discord. We've got a chat room on our Discord server, which you can join, which is running for this show, and also we're streaming on Twitch. Also, if you feel like you want to support us, we've got a Patreon. I haven't updated this, actually, because I just posted a piece on the Uno Synth Pro, which I've got in at the moment, and also there was a accompanying video for Ed's 42 HP processing video, which both went up this week. In fact, speaking of content, we also had I should plug that, shouldn't I? Patreon, yes, there we go. It's Patreon/Sonicstate, Patreon.com/Sonicstate. Please do join us. It's very much appreciated. In fact, we're contemplating from a certain point onward putting all of our content up through Patreon, so you can watch it ad-free rather than on YouTube, where you do get ads if you're not already subscribed to YouTube Red. I don't know if anybody feels that that's a good idea. Let us know in the comments, or just give us some feedback, and that would be across all tiers. It wouldn't be just the expensive one, but or the more expensive one. Neither of them are expensive. Just thought I'd canvass that. I'll check and see if I can watch the chat going by. But yes, we got Rachel K. Collier interview that went up on, I think that was yesterday. Was it yesterday? I can't remember. Monday or Tuesday. Great to be able to get to talk to her. Lots of you saying we should get her as a guest on this show, and I would love to, but she's a very busy girl, so it's not always possible. And indeed, all our guests are very busy. We're very fortunate to have, for instance, Mr. Rich Hilton, who's there in Connecticut, who is a producer, engineer, live performer, probably coming up soon. So you haven't been... I know Chic don't often rehearse, and I'm not saying that in a derivative way. I'm just saying because you're also professional, that you kind of know what you're doing, and you maybe rehearse for really big shows or really big where there's different content. Will you have a period of rehearsal before you start doing shows again, or are you just going to turn up and pick up where you left off? No, you're muted. Take a drink.
Take a drink. I believe we're going to be rehearsing
right
sometime this summer, prior to our arrival in the UK.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I'm hoping I can make it to one of those shows. Speaking of which, I went to see Charles. Charles Chicky Reeves was in Real World. He's there for the week, setting up for Howard Jones tech rehearsals, and I had a little look around there. So it was just me and him, actually. So it was all COVID safe and whatnot. And we realised I only actually met him in person twice, and that was the second time. Amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. I know. Real surprise. We had a lovely time and a little bite to eat. It was all marvellous. Well, lovely to have you, Rich. I'm glad. I'm guessing you're enjoying the sprung of spring where you are. I'm hoping it's a lot warmer than it is here. It's bloody freezing in the UK still. Rubbish. It is. Rubbish. Hope it warms up for you later for those festivals, otherwise you'll be wrapped up in some kind of faux fur disco coat.
No problem.
I'd pay to see that, actually. I would like to see that, but I think it would look...
We played in a blizzard once.
Yeah, wow.
I was being snowed on throughout the show. Blizzard. Not everybody was, but I happened to be on the side of the stage that was taking the hit. And in a public square in Zagreb, Croatia in 2006 in January, we played to a gigantic number of people in a blizzard.
How does that... I mean, because for all, you may love the band, but you'd be so tempted to throw snowballs. I mean, I just don't know how you'd resist the temptation.
Nobody did.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, people are a lot more mature than I am in your audience. So, yeah, good. Okay. And we've also got Mr. Gaz Williams, who's dazzling in his lemon yellow T-shirt. And I was saying before, just as we... Well, is it lemon? Well, no, custard. Shall we say custard? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do beg your pardon. It's better than custard is preferable. How are you, Gaz? Yeah. You look. I said last week something's changed. I don't know whether you've fiddled with your colour balance or something, but it looks really, it pops. And we're using the same camera, and I don't look anything like as good as you do. And I'm just trying to figure out why that is.
I don't know, maybe lighting, perhaps. I've got a couple of lights on me. Maybe that's what it is. Just sort of, but yes, but thank you. This T-shirt doused in custard that was dripped out of a dead dog's eye, thoroughly enough. So,
what the heck? What's the reference to that? That's I'm struggling to.
Really?
Is that a lyric?
Yeah.
Oh, what from?
I Am the Walrus.
Oh, okay.
Tuned by a little combo called the Beatles.
Thank you. Thank goodness for that. I was thinking, oh, that's a bit inappropriate, but if it's the Beatles, then it's fine. Obviously, absolutely fine. Lovely to have you. I will say though, you are slightly on the wonk.
I've noticed I'm on the wonk.
Yeah, it's like me because I've actually got a back problem, so I'm always on the wonk anyway. But I'm trying to get that fixed.
Maybe I'll slip and give it a little adjustment, shall I?
Well, maybe we could have we could give, I don't know, maybe what I could do is figure out, I'll play a video and I'll play it for long enough for you to get out, and then we'll cut back and it'll be like a close-up of the of your belly button or something as you...
No, we definitely don't want to see that.
No, I'm sure we don't. Anyway, thank you, everybody. We should probably crack on and get on with some topics. The first one, what was the first one? Let's have a look. I can't remember. Ah, yes. This should get us going. MPC One Retro, which is the MPC One, basically, but with the kind of classic MPC livery and... cosmetic look, and I do say it does look quite nice actually. The MPC One, I'm not sure, I'll have to ask, but yeah, it's just out. I think if I got some I've got a bit of web business here. So MPC One Retro limited edition, special retro limited edition, does look nice. When they say limited edition, they don't say how limited. It might be limited to, 1 million units or 200. I mean, I have no idea. There's no clear, but it's about $640, something like that. So I think it's going to be interesting, but this struck me. Well, first of all, Gaz, did you? I can't remember. You did the MP Clive II. Did you do the one as well? I can't remember now.
No. But yeah, I mean, this looks nice in that it's evocative of that particular era of MPCs, which I think actually looks nicer than the black. I think the looks a little bit more appealing. So. I wonder if the limited edition will remain
unlimited.
Unlimited.
Maybe they should just, so actually it's an unlimited edition, so special unlimited edition, whereas the other ones are, this will never run out. Yeah, maybe that's the...
But the one does represent good value for money, I think. It's a very capable machine. So I know it's been out for a few years, but it certainly isn't kind of out of date in terms of its power. It's definitely it packs.
It combines, didn't it? It's got because it's got the CV gate outputs as well as the other stuff, but it doesn't have the battery. So there's a few sort of retro differences.
All the speakers.
All the speakers, yeah. I don't know. I can't remember because I've never played with them. I can't remember how you got on with the workflow. Was it there? Because it's always under review.
I'm not a massive fan of the workflow personally. I think it's okay. I felt that, I think Machine from Native Instruments just kind of sort of edges it out in the workflow. But I mean, it's fine.
Well, the Machine's not standalone though, is it? So I suppose that's...
Yes, it is. The Machine.
Oh, it is now. Oh, God, I'm so behind with these things. Really should do some more research.
But that's more to do with me being very familiar with the Machine workflow as so with MPC, not particularly comfortable with. But when I see friends who are, then it's a great thing. I guess it's just one of these things of what you get used to. But what's the price of this? I mean, it's the special edition.
I don't know if it's any more specifically. It's I've got it here. 639 it says, which I think is probably I think that's, from what I remember, that's roughly what it cost in the first place, I think.
Yes. So I mean, I think it's pretty much out there in terms of best value for money, in terms of bang for buck, I think.
Did they get streaming from disk together on the OS yet?
Ooh,
because that would be the big one, wouldn't it? Because all of these things are meant to be
But I mean, it has come on in leaps and bounds, though, and has so many quality features built into it now. So I think if you have been on the fence a little bit with it, I think I mean, you've got an awful lot of stuff in there if you fancy a standalone workflow. This definitely qualifies in my book as an infinity box. That's a concept I'm pushing rather than groove boxes. Being that it's very capable to make complete tracks standalone, which I think is always hugely appealing.
Oh, look, I managed to get that centered in the split screen. Now, that is pretty impressive. That was like a 50-50 chance. When I pressed the button, it could have looked any way whatsoever, but it actually seemed to line up. So, yeah, I don't know, Rich, are you... MPCs, they've got, there's a lot of legacy to these, and a lot of R&B, a lot of hip hop, coming out of the States, I guess, and perhaps more so. Do you have a fondness for this look? I mean, is it something that you? Because this was another part of the question I was thinking about, really, which was the notion of this notion of cosmetics. How important is that when it actually comes to something you're playing with in terms of an instrument?
Well, some companies depend on it, like Nord, for example, on the red coloring. Yeah. But it can be important, or some people just make everything in black. Some aspect of the way your design flow works does eventually become either important or not important, and that's what would contribute to its longevity. In this case, these things have deep, deep devotion that goes back decades, and to when they were this color and had Roger Lynn's signature on them. And I think it's a beautiful product. I'm not particularly an MPC guy, but I know people who are and swear by them and will accept no substitute, and love that fact that Gaz pointed out that they're standalone production units that can be very useful all by themselves. I know there are others that do that now, but when it came out, it was pretty unique in that regard, and people loved the feel of the pads. Now I know there's different people who've been making Akai, somebody else. I don't know who owns Akai's music distribution at this point, but I would assume that people still love the pads. I can't say I've played one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things. There are so many variants of the MPC thing, because when the brand first went to in music, there was a lot of not exploitation, but they were just sort of trying to kind of keep the whole thing going. And I don't know that all of it they got absolutely right. So there are lots of different variants on that. So it's kind of like the one over the XL or whatever it may be. They're a sort of classic, and I don't profess to know which of those are. So there are lots of different sorts.
It's worth pointing out as well, though, that although it will work standalone, it also operates, as does Machina as well, as a combined DAW. It will be like a controller for your DAW, so you can just pass your projects across and carry on working with the extra power of the computer, which I think that kind of stuff is almost, fabulous things. You kind of expect that sort of thing now. I guess loads extra work for them, but yeah.
Yeah. Red Walks in the chat room says for MPC stories we need, I think we can still see it, we need Non-Eric. He's a MPC head from back in the day. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I wonder
if Corey would have a thing too.
Yeah, it's a sort of it's a very evangelical kind of device, I think. But this brought on another question, which was kind of a side question, which was, what's your favorite looking instrument at the moment? Is there something that you kind of go, oh, that just it makes you sort of either desire it or want to use it more? Is there a thing cosmetically that really? I'll get the ball rolling, because and I noticed this was when I was reviewing the Modal Cobalt 8, which incidentally they are have a sponsor slot in this show, but it wasn't that. It was just it's such a beautiful colour, and the curves on it, and the way that it photographed, it just looked fantastic, and it almost made you forgive certain quirks and quirks about it, because it was so pretty, in the same way that we can forgive attractive human beings for being certain ways. The way something looks so well, it has an effect. And that, for me, so it's the Modal Electronics Cobalt 8 for me is probably the most attractive current model. I don't know if anybody else has got anything they want to jump in with. Gaz? What is it that currently either you are hankering after because it's so beautiful, or you can't keep your hands off because it's so beautiful?
Well, I mean, this thing, the Waldorf KB37, I always think is a really, really attractive looking thing. Definitely gives, that. What else? I'm just thinking about things I've got here. That thing, the tracker from Polyend as well, is another great one.
That is a beautiful
And that's
thing.
Now available in all those artist colours as well, isn't it? In all sorts of interesting approaches. But also, I mean, I know I'm saying it again, but the old Isla 2400 is just it's just such an inspiring, fantastic, solid, big monster of a piece of equipment there. That always I always think that the aesthetic of that is really good as well. Not particularly pretty though, but more kind of manly and butch.
Rich, how about you? I remember back in the day remember the Focusrite Red stuff, which was just massively CNC machined out of huge chunks of aluminium. That that really kind of brought cosmetic stuff really much more into the street, because it was such a bold look and also very, very heavy in terms of design. It was a new thing. I don't know, but that was just an aside. How about for you? What is it at the moment that you're thinking, you are so beautiful?
Well, it's not driven by visuals. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I bring no judgment in this statement, but as it applies to my love of things, it's not generally driven visually. In fact, I'll put up with, I'll put up with it not being that interesting visually if I like what it does enough. And the things that I do tend to assign that kind of affection to are mostly made of wood, like violins, guitars, beautiful wood construction instruments, that even woodwind instruments and things, flutes, things that are made out of something natural kind of interest me now. Maybe that's just another.
That's interesting. It's a very kind of Yamaha way of looking at things, because I remember when we went to Yamaha, their legacy, they have lots and lots of craftsmen, people who are like luthiers and pianoers, whatever they're called, and people who make brass stuff and can beat metal into kind of, and they really value that as a sort of as a thing. It's kind of interesting because it's not something that we generally see so much in the low end of the things that we make, because the things that we buy, because there isn't the budget for that level of craftsmanship quite often, and you've got to kind of imply it, perhaps. I don't know.
Also, the materials don't have anything to do with the way it sounds.
Yeah,
I mean, they do at some level. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like that, but the cosmetics, the parts that are functional to the cosmetics, don't generally, because the thing isn't vibrating. So whereas in a violin or a guitar or a trumpet or whatever, a bassoon, there's something in there. There's something being vibrated and resonated through that particular substance. Whereas as it relates to these things, none of that applies. So then it becomes purely visual, and I sort of don't care.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
sorry. I was just going to say, Tanith in the chat room says the BARP 2600, which has got all the kind of Christmas tree LEDs, means you don't need a Christmas tree at Christmas, because it looks like it's covered in fairy lights. There's one for you.
Well, I remember when the Moog Voyager that glowed blue came out, and I remember turning up the blue glow and hearing a hum in the audio output, and I was like, okay, I don't need this.
Oh, sorry, I just got my shoelace caught in the rolling wheel of my chair. That's not something that happens every day. Oh, while I'm at it, I do have the Uno Synth Pro here, which some may say cosmetically is challenged, some may not, but it's got some. I wanted to point that out because I have to say I think this thing sounds. This is paraphonic mode, and it is really nice. Got it doing those. Each oscillator is at a different octave, so it's random chord inversions.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, I was kind of bit blown away by it, actually. I've been waxing about it. But yes, I'm looking forward to getting into that.
The Microfreak is a funny one, though, isn't it? In terms of, it's in terms of its aesthetics,
Yeah, it's kind of pointy,
pretty?
Isn't it?
You've got all these graphics along the front here, which is quite unusual to see something like that. Mm-hmm. This is with the optional mic that I've just got for it.
Yeah, because it's got the vocoder in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, those little graphics on there, all these, like the kind of birds and flowers and stuff, just kind of, I like that. I don't know if some people would really not like that. So, I guess it's one of those things, isn't it? Making the aesthetic decisions are going to appeal to some people and absolutely turn other people.
Well, some of the chat room people are saying the microfig is pretty. So there are, and I think some people would find maybe the Polybrute pretty or impressive, perhaps. I don't know where. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah. Rich, are you? Because I remember when we spoke about this, you were actually quite, quite interested. I think I would say. Have you had a chance to?
I think I want to use smitten.
Have you acted upon your instincts?
No.
Okay.
This would not be a good. This would not necessarily be a good time for that. But oh boy, am I in love with that thing. And it looks great to me. But it looks great to me because it sounds great. I mean, it looks great too, but I wouldn't care if it didn't sound great, and it seems to. And it does like really cool things. And I want one.
Yeah. Okay.
Most smitten I've been since Memory Moog.
That's good. Whoa. That's a bold statement, and I would tend to agree with you. It's interesting because some people are saying it's sort of a bit like 1970s caravan chic in terms of look, because of there's almost a full. It's like the little Formica cup holder, which is actually not the Formica. It's the whatever they call it, the modulation pad, isn't it?
Like the touche thing. Oh yeah.
There's that thing, and then there's the button matrix that they've really expanded the use of into. I mean, it goes way beyond a VCS3, if you know what I mean, in terms of that sort of thing. And I think it's an amazing design.
Actually, I was on a podcast which was it was like Dream Studio. I might have mentioned this before. I think it's published maybe this month. I'm not sure. And I had one instrument, and I chose the Polybrute. Because sonically it was very interesting, but also because I had a large keyboard and all the knobs transmit MIDI CC. Because rather than it being a Dream Studio, I figured if I've only got a certain number of things, everything had to have more than one purpose and be useful. So that was my angle on it. Okay, let's just have a little word from our friends over at
iZotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse iZotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the iZotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on iZotope Producers Club, head to iZotope.com.
And of course, they do a couple of subscriptions. We've got Music Production Suite Pro, which is more sort of geared to music production, and then Producers Club, which has the more RX Pro stuff, which is a little more has a little more going on. And I'd just like to point out that iZotope is a proud sponsor, they tell us, of the Sonic Talk podcast, and you can in fact save 10% on stuff if you go to iZotope.com/Sonic Talk. And use the code SONIC10 at checkout for any of their software products, not for subscriptions or hardware though. But thank you very much for their support. Lots of stuff coming in from the chat room of synths that people like. There's all sorts of Emu Planet modules seem to be coming in. I think because they did loads of, and Carnival, didn't they have loads of kind of art on the front panel? They were sort of, I seem to remember. I never really got into Emu stuff, though I know a lot of people did. There was a whole range, wasn't there, of because they did a load of grey boxes for a while, and then they started to put pictures on the front of whatnot.
We had a bunch of them. Yeah, Planet Fat was one of them. It was, I think, purple. They had a purple one. They had a gold one. It really lit up your rack.
I'll bet. I'm trying to look now what we could go to next, because did anyone enjoy the Lego thing? Should we go there? Is that something that's of interest, or is it a little bit flippant?
Everyone wanted Lego the other week, didn't they?
Yeah, okay, we're going to Lego. Stand by, we're going to Lego. This is a bizarre project, the Lego White Noise album, which seems to be a thing.
It's a sound that's recognised by generations all over the world.
Basically,
the sound Lego bricks make is also incredibly soothing. Given the year we've all had, soothing is something we need now more than ever. So using only the sounds of Lego bricks and pieces, we created a playlist of soundscapes to promote mindfulness. This is Lego White Noise.
Okay, that's the sort of summary. So it's just a bit. I mean, yeah, it's a marketing exercise, But to be fair, I don't know how much marketing Lego really needs. I mean, they reckon there are something like 600 billion Lego pieces in the world, which is obviously great for those who like to fiddle with things, but not so great if you step on them or find them in landfill or any of that stuff. But so the idea of this album, there's like 17 tracks, I think, 7 30-minute tracks of people doing stuff with, it's like ASMR / white noise, kind of ambient soothing things. And I suppose, I don't know whether, I was a big Lego fan as a kid, so this does resonate with me. But I mean, I just thought it was kind of a funny topic. Rich, was Lego your thing, or was there a different sort of construction project?
There was no Lego at the time.
I didn't want to suggest that there was.
No, there was no Lego. We were still scrolling on cave wall. But I did call my wife in, who's somewhat younger than I, and it had some. Shall we say, resonance, for want of a better word, for her. Not so much as an acoustical event, but that, that's cool, that's neat that it did that. Look at that, it sounds like a bunch of Legos being poured. I found this interesting, and I think it's cool that they did it, and I see that it's the Lego company who is the motivating people behind it, and I bet you Diego Stocco could do something cool with them.
I'm sure he could do something better than what I heard, to be honest.
Yeah, there you go.
It wouldn't be hard.
There you go.
It wouldn't be hard, but I'll say it, Rich, if you're not going to. Yeah, definitely. I, as a kid, I used to make all sorts of things. I remember making Lego crossbows out of the Lego train tracks, because you could run train tracks along and then build it with the other parts and a big elastic band. And they would go through several layers of cardboard. They were really, really powerful. And we got into a bit of trouble with those. Gaz, is this? I mean, it's a great project. Sorry, Rich, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say there are some giant Lego constructions. My kids were really into it, and we got them some pretty large and elaborate things, and they all still exist in a sort of a protected space behind a bookcase in this room.
Wow!
They're back there at the museum.
Mine all just ended up in a massive drawer. There was like a huge box. There was no. I don't think I ever got anything. I'd buy boxes of it from jumble sales, so I just have more and more and more of it. I don't think we ever got any kits, but hey, they're very, very expensive. I don't know. Gaz, Lego part of your youth? Does this chime with you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I probably am the original Lego generation. Because I grew up near Wrexham in North Wales. There was a Lego, I think that's where the UK HQ was. So when I was young growing up, I thought Lego came from Wrexham, which I was bitterly disappointed when I learnt it was Danish. But what can I say about this? It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? In terms of
it's trying a bit hard to be a thing that isn't really a thing, I think.
Well, I mean, the first thing it brought to mind was Lou Reed's Metal Machine Music, that is an album that he released in the mid-70s of just guitar feedback, and it was like a kind of controversial album of its time because it was seen to have no musical value whatsoever. It was literally just kind of like white noise caused, from a load of guitar feedback sort of sounds. He was very ahead of his time, it seems.
Yeah, it would seem so. I guess.
But I don't know. I mean, it's not an awful lot I can say about this, really. I mean, I tried listening to some of it, and it did make me a bit nostalgic for making Lego. So I guess in that way it works. But as a kind of ASMR sort of oral sumptuous experience, it didn't do an awful lot for me, I'm afraid.
I think that's totally fine, and I put this in there just because it was it just popped up and I thought it was kind of interesting. There are some great stories about Lego, and this is a bit of an aside. I remember listening to it was on the radio. It was on like one of the BBC World Service things, and basically there was a container ship that sank somewhere in European waters, and it had a load of very specific Lego kits in it that were only limited editions, you know, probably like the MPC One, I guess, Retro. And so, but what happens is there are certain beaches in Europe where the parts of these Lego kits will wash up, and they show up, and they're really highly prized because they're the only place that you can find them. So people sort of collect. If you're a Lego collector and you've got some of these are kind of, they have real provenance because they've come out of the sea, which is obviously a bad thing, and because they last for ages. I mean, but it's just And Lego are, Lego are in fact, to be fair, they're trying to look for alternative materials.
Well, doesn't it seem to be easy to? I'm sorry, guys. Doesn't it seem that it would be easy to print them?
What 3D print?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I think
Isn't that kind of what?
But they would have to be molded because printing would take ages.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Do you remember that story? Did we cover it a few years back? This story about when you said about shipwreck and or things getting lost at sea. There was that island, wasn't there, in just off Africa, where this shipwreck had gone down, and loads of like synthesizers got washed up on this beach. What was the story? I think Cape Verde, God. I think it was, wasn't it?
Really?
So cosmic disco. These musicians found all of these African musicians, and I think they had like mini Moogs and ARPs and various other bits of things were in this shipment that kind of in this shipwreck.
That is awesome.
Washed up. Yeah, they got washed up in this little African country, and then the musicians then didn't have, just figured out how to use it.
Here we go. In a calm morning, 1968, a shipment carrying the latest Moogs and Hammonds set off from Baltimore Harbour. A few months later, it finally reappeared. It's been marooned. Oh yeah, that's it. I'll post that link in the chat show. What a great story.
Wow.
Yeah, but
that's
then
another
I think
Guardian one.
Yeah, there's this sort of music then that was influenced by these instruments arriving, sort of
Afro electro. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, well, we whipped through that one. I think that's fair enough. Let me see. Some of the Legos have got the same. Yeah, we've done that one. I'm just trying to find my why don't we let's do this one, because I think this is that right?
Just a brief bit about this. There are two filters.
Oops, I beg your pardon. That was
just a brief bit about
that's wrong as well.
That's
wrong too. Is this one right? There we go. That's the one I was looking for. Cubasis 3.3, which is mobile recreation. This is Dom Sigalis.
What's new in Cubasis 3.3? This new update brings a lot of professional and user-requested features to Cubasis, like MIDI Learn, MCU and HUI support, sidechain support, audio unit instrument multi-out support, extended MIDI routing, and a lot of other improvements. And all of this while keeping simplicity and ease of use in mind.
Okay, that's all you get because it's a 20-minute video. But Cubasis, this is designed for mobile. It actually works on Android and iOS stuff. And now, obviously, with the later iOS and the M1 chips and the kind of bigger capabilities, it feels like it's one of the few pro apps that actually does exist for this new platform. And I know, Gaz, because you use it in anger, as it were, or you've used it for recording and whatnot.
Yes.
Have you checked the 3.3 out yet?
Yeah, there's a bunch of biggies. Obviously things like sidechain support. What else have we? I'll probably just need to have a little reminder. A load of cool things. Let me see. MIDI Learn. Oh yeah, supports Mackie
MCU.
Huey now.
And Huey,
Which obviously, that brings a bunch of interesting things in. What else? MIDI routing. There's a lot of cool things. There still is a massive deal breaker though, and it just does my head in. In fact, it makes me want to fling the iPad across the room it's so good. Apart from one thing, if you set up a loop brace.
Right, okay.
No. Set up a loop and then you record into that loop. In every pass, it'll generate a new kind of take. Hey, that's great. But each of those takes, you can't drag the beginning back into the previous take. It's its
separate
own
file.
So it's so annoying. You want that little or something of the vocal if you're going to you have to trim it, move it, stick it on, and it's annoying. It's so annoying. And
is that just Cubasis? Is that just Cubasis?
Yeah, Cubasis. Cubase is fine, but it's I think it must be something to do with it when every time it generates a file, on a loop, it's actually generating a new file rather than some sort of continuous single file. And it's just a massive deal breaker. There's been over the years, I've been a big Cubasis user and, kind of supporter of it. And a bunch of things have improved. Like the zooming was always really wrong, but the zooming is all good now. And there's such a lot of good things to be said for it. When Cubasis 3 came out, because it was on Cubasis 2 at the time, Cubasis 3 wasn't a free upgrade like you'd have kind of expected, like from Cubasis 1 to Cubasis 2. Cubasis 3 was a complete standalone purchase again. And the reason for that was it was a complete from the ground up rewrite of the software. It looks virtually the same, and the feature set, especially at launch, was almost the same. But anyway, I was really quite excited about it because I thought, finally, I bet they've fixed that. No, they haven't.
That's how disappointing.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a DAW upgrade, Rich, is there, that doesn't fix the thing that you really want fixing, that's for sure. But this, I mean, it's like, it's 35, it's under $40 or under 40 quid. It's 35 quid, 37 euros, whatever. I mean, it's, that's so affordable. I know, we've spoken about working on mobile for DAW work. It's just not. It's never. The language hasn't quite been written yet to make it flexible or professional. I don't know. Well, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, I think it's a perfectly useful idea. And in the same spirit that we enjoyed the MPC earlier because it's completely standalone and you can do a fairly complete production on it just by itself, theoretically. So can you on your iPad now. And if you have the proper interfacing and such, to be able to get things in and out that you want to get in, because that seems to be the most complicated part. And there are people who have addressed it. But I haven't used the new M1 iPads, so I don't know how the architecture. It should support it just fine. And based on what Gaz just said about the loop record editing limitations, that would drive me nuts too. And I understand why. If you were to take that take and drag it to an independent audio track and then pull it, would it work? Or is it just in place that it doesn't work?
I'm just testing it now. I was just to save face. I'm just testing it now. No, drag it onto. I'm just dragging it onto a new track. And it
still won't adjust the boundaries.
Yeah. It's a deal breaker.
That's
basically,
maddening.
it's a deal breaker if you try and use Cubasis for yes, but also if you use if you set the punch points in and drop in, and then you go, I just want to pull that front back a little bit, and it's not there.
And fiddling around with transients and tiny little bits on a touchscreen is just not quite there.
It's unbelievably frustrating. What I would say, though, in its defense, though, that it's so useful when you use it. Like the way I was using it, I know I've mentioned this a number of years ago, but I would use it with a Midas MR18, which is like using that as an audio interface, and set it all up I'd cycle to this rehearsal room in my little saddleback, whatever it's called, the little pannier or whatever. I'd have the MR30, the MR18, and I'd have my iPad. I'd arrive at a rehearsal, plonk that on the floor, connect it up to the iPad, and it would remember all of the routings. So then. I wouldn't necessarily have I'd use this for sort of recording the band, set up lots of channels to record.
Yeah.
Gosh, sort of up to 16 channels in real time recording, absolutely fine, no dropouts. And then if you want to have a listen to it, as long as you didn't loop. Because then you see what I do with that then is I would just bring it back and transfer. That's the cool thing. I can just open the Cubasis project up into Cubase, which is great. But what was kind of always kind of cool though is I've got the audio interface plugged in for multi-tracking, and then we want to have a little playback, and I haven't got any speakers plugged in, so I'd just pull out the clagnet, and then it instantly switches to the internal sound card and plays it out of the speakers, which is great.
Right, yeah.
Without any complaints. Plug it back in, and everything is back as it was.
Oh, right.
You kind of go,
that's the sort of stuff you want. Hot swap.
That's the sort of stuff you want. Hot swapping without the kind of, error messages and all sorts of things that you typically get when you would attempt the same thing on a computer.
I expect they've broken that in OS 13.5.
God, they might have. I mean, we're going to see. So there is something, isn't there? I think class compliancy. Now, this may or may not come to pass, but I think class compliancy may be leaving iOS.
Oh, great.
No. So yes,
I can't confirm that. So we'd have to.
I can't confirm it, but I've read rumours that might be happening. Wow. Yeah. So.
Another boo. Right. Well, while we all digest that, I'm going to just have a mention from our friends over at Modal Electronics, the Cobalt, which, as we know, is 8-voice extended virtual analog synth. Innovative oscillator with 34 algorithms, lovely, beautiful colour and shape, morphable 4-pole ladder filter, 29 endless encoders for real-time control, internal sequencer and arpeggiator, MPE support for expression, which works really nicely actually, Modal app for Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, and also VST3 and AU. If you want to find out more about that, use the bit.ly URL, bit.ly/get_modal, and we thank them for their support. Always welcome. Yeah, I don't know. We're thinking about getting maybe an M1 Mac here because, we can test plugins and whatnot, but I have no desire for any more mobile devices at the moment. It's just not something that I'm feeling. My phone's fine for everything, but apart from audio. But I'd be interested to see what it's like on Android. Although I'm not sure what. I mean, are they I'm trying to think. Are they making any kind of larger format Android tablets? I mean, there's lots of phones, but I don't know whether there's actually anything like there was a whole tranche, wasn't there? They kind of, did they sort of admit defeat to the iOS thing? I mean, because Samsung used to make them and whatnot. I don't know if anybody's using any Android tablets. Maybe the chat room will know about it. But be interested to know. But you can get. Just keeping an eye out. Can't see it there. No. Any takers? No, perhaps not. I don't know.
Just a quick note though. Cubasis does run surprisingly well on the iPhone, as well as the iPad, and
the power on those things is enormous now, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, and then that would have to be Cubasis 3. So the original Cubasis was just an iPad only. So when it went to Cubasis 3, that also brought sort of universal support, for iPhone as well.
How is it for sticking the transient from the loop that you missed on the front of?
Worse. Yeah, good point.
But I mean, for hosting, virtual instruments or routing effects, all that kind of stuff, it's all there.
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, I was using it with Pure Piano, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And recording using it as a way of recording that, and that stuff is super impressive, and in a way, Cubasis running on the iPhone is the more impressive sort of feat in a way, in part because it's actually, with that one caveat which I've mentioned, other than that, it actually is very, very nice and responsive to use. So please, Steinberg, please fix that thing because, It is the deal breaker.
Okay.
I would do
Lots of
so much
nodding
more work.
Lots of nodding going on here. Okay, well, we can concur with that. We've got, I think we've got, gosh, we're almost out of topics. I can't believe it. But let me see. Yeah, okay, here we go. This is the Sinevibes Thru Zero Flanger, which actually had quite a nice. Oh, no, it's not.
Nice.
That's not it. That's not it at all. Here it is. Yeah, that's the video I meant. Wrong one. DiPole Thru Zero Flanger. Some of this added. This is I think this is not a digitone, isn't it? Electro digitone.
No, analog 4.
Oh, is it analog 4? Well, there we go. Wrong on every count. Ooh, $29. Not at all unreasonable. Yeah, just a simple. It's like a 3-0 flanger, which has that sort of sound, and it's fun. I mean, back in the day, the flanger was flange on everything, wasn't it? I mean, it's kind of one of those effects that kind of will come in and out of fashion. I suppose. I don't know. It's been a while. Maybe we're all dying for those Wheels of Fire middle eights to come back. Oh, no, I'm trying to. No, that's not it. I'm just going to post this in the chat room. Flanger's useful. I like the sort of static flanger, the one that's kind of where it almost feels like it doesn't move, and you just end up with that kind of. It's like the Daft Punk sound where you use it on certain synths and it gives it that kind of almost vowel-y kind of thing. Tape flanging though, that's got that. I mean, if you're really going for it, but do you use flanges much? It's not something that seems to be that in fashion these days.
I use them a lot, but I don't use them obviously a lot. So I use them in the way kind of that you just described, where things are moving very, very slowly quite often. And not, in other words, I'm not trying to make a deal of it. I'm just trying to provide subtle tonal variation across the length of something that would otherwise be pretty static. So I do like to use it. In fact, I used one yesterday. And choruses as well, but in the same way. Not so much to sound like Andy Summers playing a guitar chord, but to give subtle motion to something. You shouldn't even, I mean, most of the times I'm using it, you shouldn't notice it's there until I've taken it away.
So what sort of stuff would you put it on then? I mean, what's kind of...
Almost anything. Keyboards, quite often keyboards. Also, if you want to spread something out, it's quite often nice way to spread it out without it being some sort of fixed delay kind of event, or otherwise I use Soundtoys, whatever that thing is called that spreads it out, the old harmonizer trick.
Yeah.
They've got a great
Little
one.
Alter Boy, is that the old?
Alter Boy, yeah.
Right.
No, it's not. That's not the one. Well, anyway, I do use them, but I don't use them obviously quite very often. Occasionally, sometimes you want a Fender Rhodes to sound like it's going through Richard T's biphase, and so you do that. But other times it's almost imperceptible.
That's interesting. What I used to do. I remember I used to do this with mono sources, and to kind of give my mixes more width. I used to use the sample delay, so I just basically delay I'd stick it across a mono channel and then have one side be like 16 sample. I know it's probably very naughty, but it seemed to work all right. Gaz, flangers? Yes or no?
I was flanging earlier today.
I'm using one now.
Flanging.
Soaking in it.
So I'm setting up my new pedal board because I have got gigs, which I'm really excited about, coming up, and in August. So that could be an excuse to get to dust down the pedal board, which hasn't obviously been used for a while. So and I'm actually trying to come up with a new arrangement, and I was playing around with flangers, going, how much do I actually use a flanger?
Okay. So
but,
yes, that space.
Yes. Well, I mean, they can be like just so cool applied at the right time. I remember when Ableton first came out, and years ago, but I remember just playing around with the flanger and applying lots of automations to it, and it just blew my mind what what was capable, because prior to that, flangers had typically been set it on the pedal and then you've got that big whooshy movement, and it can be quite overbearing and I don't know, sometimes make me feel a bit sicky feeling sometimes a flanger sound. But when you start automating it and start changing it, wow, my goodness, there's a universe of sounds within it. Interesting little fact. Where did the term come from? Where did the name flanger come from? Do you know?
It's the flange of the tape reels, isn't it? Because you used to...
Not quite.
No? Okay.
Well, it was... George Martin was trying to... so they were using the flanger effect. And John Lennon wanted to know what was going on. But George Martin sort of just... explained it in a load of you take the floffle whistle and feed it through a flange, he just talked a load of gobbledygook, and John Lennon remembered the flange mention, he's going, just chuck some flanger on that, will you, la? After that's a terrible John Lennon impression. But yes, apparently John Lennon has
John Lennon invented, right, there's another possible. So currently we've got I'm using one now, and John Lennon invented the flanger.
Yeah, well, the term. But I mean, the thing is, when, like I was mentioning, when you automate them and then you start to use them in that kind of creative way, then I think it just does become just the most amazing versatile effect. So I think, Sinevibes, all of their stuff is fantastic, isn't it? It really responds well to
they do all that Korg stuff as well, don't they? They really...
Yeah. So, obviously, with a Thru Zero flanger, sometimes Thru Zero flanger is really annoying, isn't it? Because you kind of get that little hole there. But if you can get the rhythmical aspect of it right and get
it's
it
like PWM.
onto the grid. Yes, very
I wonder what would happen if I PWM some Thru Zero flanging. My God, it could open it like some kind of wormhole in the universe, the time-space continuum.
Yeah.
All of your audio.
Don't do it then. Don't do it.
Yeah, I better not. It's like that. Remember the rumor that when they were starting to do nuclear experiments and starting sort of these chain reaction tests, that it would actually start and they would never stop, and the whole world would just sort of disintegrate in a puff of smoke because it couldn't stop ever. Maybe that something like that might happen. I hope not.
Yeah, well, it might.
Well, I doubt it. Sinevibes. It's available for most of. Yeah, I'm just trying to see, where was it? I had it here somewhere. I'm just trying to see. It's available Mac, AU, V2. I'm just trying to. Gosh, I thought I had that written down somewhere, but again, AU VST3 plugin, 10.9 plus. Buy it now for $29. That's pretty hard. And they've even got a demo version, which is kind of it's hard to argue with. Yeah, anybody found anything really exciting they've been using recently? I've just we've got a few minutes to fill. I know this is completely unscripted, and I haven't actually asked whether anybody does, but I'll put you on the spot. I'm going with this because this is just really floating my boat at the moment. But Gaz, okay, over to you.
My last couple of Eurorack adventures have been looking at the CVlization from Yuhi, which is Yuhi's first hardware product.
Yes,
and I remember when
the much famed slow to release finally got there.
CVlization, yeah. Now that thing, because when that was announced, I wasn't remotely interested in Eurorack, but I was interested in that because I thought, well, what are they? What have they? What are they going to bring to that world? And I was kind of it made me kind of envious about Eurorack getting all these really interesting innovations and using the CVlization now. And I've used it on my past 2 Monday sort of like adventures, and it just is amazing musical device. What makes it kind of interesting is you can use it as like a kind of 4-in, 4-out matrix mixer, which I did on my first week. And then last Monday I was doing using the sequential switches. So you've got like 8 little pots on there, and then it'll run a little sequence, and you can decide which output of the 4 outputs, you've got 4 sequences running out your 4 outputs, and you can decide which input is going to appear at every step.
Right, okay.
which becomes like really interesting if you feed it a bunch of
Sounds
sort
like
of
an absolute nightmare to manage, but I mean...
No, well, I mean, they use like a color
Yeah.
scheme. I mean, I go into this in some depth in my kind of sense, but I think why I'm mentioning it is because every time I've been using it, I've been making music.
Something
And,
good
that
happens.
Sounds,
Right.
Well, I've been making music. It sounds like music. And like when I play around with modular, that's not always the case. I'm looking to find the music and it's sort of, but with that, it just feels so well set up for making really pleasing musical things. What I haven't done on my show yet, and I must do at some point though, is volt maps, which you can apply to the pitch quantizers, which in a nutshell, it's like you can put in these little sequences and then you can have, once a sequence completes, it'll move up to a designated musical interval. So the phrase will kind of keep moving.
Okay, interesting.
And then locked into particular scales.
God, that's a lot of stuff it seems to be able to do. I mean, full.
But it's
full on.
it's the musical side of it is what makes it such a wonderful thing. It's just because you feel like you are in semi-control, more or less in control, but not. And I love
quite.
that. That's what I'm always looking for. Where I feel I've set it up, I'm sort of in control, but then it starts doing things that just blows me away, and it's like and it makes me feel like I'm really good.
Well, thank you for that, Rich. How about you? Is there anything you've recently discovered that you kind of is floating your boat?
Playing with new software all the time in the mostly in the mixing or finalizing the later stage process of project development.
All right.
So mostly doing as far as actual product, I got the Knifonium software, seeing as how I'll probably never get the hardware, and it seems to be pretty cool. I'm having a good time playing with it. There are things I still need to learn about it, but I'm enjoying it.
Is that this?
I'm
Good
working.
grief, that's dense. Is it a tube-driven emulation synth? Oh, right. Okay, gotcha. Nice.
Oh, it's my dream synth.
Yeah, well, they've put it on sale now and then, and I managed to grab one when it was on sale, and it was. I'm quite happy playing around with it right now. I haven't found a specific spot for it and what I'm working on, because what I'm working on now is mostly mixing and finishing a project by a guitarist friend of mine, and it needs to mostly focus on his guitars. But in that sense, a lot of exploration within Softtube's Console 1, working with the different console models, learning them and learning their differences and where they're most effectively applied within the productions, and integrating also the UAD stuff into that, because you can put UAD stuff into your channel strips. And working on ambiences, new kinds of ambiences. I mean, the typical Echo Boy and a couple of good reverbs is always going to be there for me, but I'm now working a little bit with Valhalla's Supermassive and with Eventide's Black Hole and things that kind of create a little more of a total ambience to things. I'm at a loss for a word right now, but and also been learning adaptive herb and trying to integrate that into certain aspects of the production. I'm using a lot more reverbs than I used to. Different reverbs for different purposes, rather than dumping everything into two reverbs usually.
It's the old school. It's almost that's the old console way of working, because you only had a certain number of auxiliary sends or groups or whatever. So that would be the way the studio was set up generally, isn't it? It's hardware limitations previously, I suppose. Yes,
and now we have this embarrassment of riches of these tremendous ambience tools that are available to us across all kinds of vendors. And I'm finding ways to use them cooperatively so that each does something that it does well. Like particularly adaptive herb has to be sort of managed in that way. I have to be careful what I want to put it on, but it works great on certain things. And so I just constantly trying to change up the way I work. I've been doing this my whole career, is not falling into too deeply into ruts in terms of my procedural thing and trying to remain flexible and creative within the audio thinking process. So that's where I'm
excellent.
at right
Well,
now.
that sounds like a very worthwhile placing of energy. I mean, I got there in the end. I wasn't confident going into that sentence, and I completely fell over myself. Oh well, great. Well, thank you for being on the spot there. I think that I might have just invented a new thing that might happen on the show regularly, because it's assuming we ever have time for it. But it's unusual that we finish the topics. But I think that brings us to the end of business for the day. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for all of you folks in the chat room, in YouTube and Twitch and in the IRC and all of that. It's always a pleasure to have you aboard, and thank you. And thank you to our guest, Rich. Thank you. Oops, no, that's not you. That's you. Thank you so much, Rich, for joining us. I hope you've got a productive day planned ahead of you, or maybe not. Maybe you're chilling like a resident. I don't know.
Today I will learn how to replace a battery in an old MacBook Air, which needs to happen.
Have you got the right tools?
Yeah, apparently I do, and it's coming with another set of tools. That's supposed to be all I need, but we'll get her done.
There's always chisels and hammers. If not, that
No. We'll be good. We'll be good.
Okay, I'm glad. There are a lot of hammer comments in the chat room there. Actually, it wasn't just me. But lovely to have you, Rich. Nice to see you, and also Mr. Gaz Williams. Oh, nice to see you. Very yellow. Are you doing the show tonight? What's happening?
Yes, on my show tonight, I've got Charlie Francis joining me. He's a music producer of some note, worked with REM and one of my favourites from the 90s, the High Llamas and the Noisettes and a whole bunch of other people. He's a good friend of mine. I work with him quite a lot and have worked with him quite a lot over the years, working on a project with him at the moment. So decided it'd be great to get him on the show. Incidentally, he was Toya's bass player back in 1980.
Wow. Okay.
So he's had a very interesting career. So he'll be my guest on the show tonight, 8 p.m. Gaz Williams show on YouTube. Yes, so
exactly. Just search for the Gaz Williams show or subscribe, because you should be already. Exactly.
If you're not, please do. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Well, that's it for this week. I want to say thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to our friends over at Modal. Don't forget, check out the Cobalt 8 and also check out what iZotope have on offer. Use the code SONIC10 to get yourself some discount. Anyway, we'll see you next time. That was Sonic Talk episode 668 of all things.
668.
668. See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye now.